Today we're going to be talking about the extraordinary carbon facial and how much gel you should be applying. But first, a little bit of context. Carbon facial is super popular these days, especially on social media. Everyone has seen it. It's been called a China doll facial, a Hollywood facial, a Hollywood laser peel, a soft peel. There are so many names for this incredible effective treatment. You know the video. The clinician applies a layer of carbon gel or carbon powder that's been mixed into a mask onto the client's skin, and then they use a Q-switch or picosecond laser to remove the carbon. But based on those videos, many clinicians are unaware of how much gel to use in order to make the treatment effective and, most importantly, safe. So how much gel should you be using? Let me show you too much, because it looks incredible on video and it is actually quite fun. This thick layer of black carbon gel is way too much, and I'll explain why in a moment. But before I do, let's watch this. This technique, although very popular and very appealing on socials because it looks really cool, is unsafe and incorrect. So why is it unsafe? Carbon is a natural mineral that when lasered off the skin creates a plume. Plume is the smoke that comes out of the carbon when it's being lasered off. If this plume is inhaled, it can create some serious damage to your lungs and respiratory system. Not only for the client, but also for us, the technicians, who are doing multiple carbon facials a week. If you were to apply that much carbon, technically and theoretically speaking, you would need what's called a plume extractor, which is held near the face as the laser beam travels over the skin. It collects the plume that is being produced from the burnt off carbon. Secondly, it's incorrect and totally ineffective. When you have that much carbon applied to the skin and the laser beam goes over it, it's targeting the color of the carbon. It's the depth of the color in the carbon that the laser is drawn to. When that heats up, you want the heat to be inside the pores, because the end goal of removing carbon from the skin is to break down the walls of the pores and absorb as much oil as it can with it. If you're just smearing a thick layer on the skin and you're lasering on top, the carbon will absorb as much of the laser light as it can, where it's thickest, which means you're actually doing and performing a very superficial epidermal exfoliation treatment, which may be quite nice and look fabulous on Instagram, but you're not actually changing the skin. To then correct this false technique, number one, the carbon needs to be applied in a very thin layer on the skin. This allows the carbon to penetrate into the pores. Number two, the carbon needs to be left on the skin for a minimum of 10 minutes. 10 minutes. This allows the carbon not only to penetrate into the pores, but to absorb as much oil as it can and attach itself to the walls of the pores, which is, of course, where you want to target with your laser. After you've applied a thin layer, you need to massage it into the skin to help the penetration process so that it gets down into the pores. We don't want it to be sitting superficially on the surface of the skin. Although that would be a nice treatment, it's not going to get the amazing results your clients expect from a carbon facial. Number three, leave it on for 10 minutes. Be patient, the client will thank you. Number four, remove the residual carbon that's been left on the surface of the skin before you laser it off. Again, you don't want that superficial residual carbon to be absorbing all the laser light, because that's what's going to be wasted on the surface of the skin. Remember, we want the laser to be targeting the pore, not just the carbon. Once you've removed that leftover residual carbon, you'll get this dirty kind of muddy looking face. If you look really closely, you'll see the carbon sitting inside the pores of the skin. They'll look like little black dots. That is the best way to know that your application process is perfect. So, to recap the perfect carbon facial gel application, number one, you've applied it thinly. Number two, you've massaged it into the skin. Number three, you've left it on for 10 minutes. Number four, you've removed the residual carbon and you can see the leftover carbon sitting inside the pores. This will eliminate the excessive plume, which is hazardous to both the client and the technician, and will also ensure that you're giving the best possible treatment. It's a deeper exfoliation and you're actually changing the skin by breaking down the walls of the pores and absorbing as much oil as you can when you remove the carbon with your pico laser or your Q-switch laser. If you perform this treatment correctly, not only will you see an instant result on the client's skin, but long term, after about 4 to 6 sessions of carbon facials, you'll see minimized pores, minimization of oil, and a clearer, plumper, healthier looking skin that looks clearer and cleaner.